Hello and welcome to episode 36 of the Golden Boots podcast. This is your host, Jorge Gonzalez. Our podcast is all about soccer, all things soccer. We love soccer. Our podcast is brought to you by our channel, Top Bin 90. Today, we brought a very, very special guest for us today. He's originally from the Raleigh area, played college at Duke University, so he's a Blue Devil. So all our Carolina fans relax. And he also played at New England Revolution, making the 2014 MLS Cup final. Darrius Barnes, how are you today, my man?
I'm good, Jorge. I'm good. Pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me on. And it's great to finally be in Charlotte. Finally, good to have boots on the ground. So thanks for having me.
It is, man. Listen, this is my starting question for you, man. Every time I see you, bro, you're always dressed really well, man. Was that something that you picked up in New York and New England, or has that always been you?
I guess it's always been me, man. It's I don't know. I think my mom's always picking on me because I have, hundreds of pairs of shoes. So I think it's just something that's been with me since I was young. I love clothes. I love shoes. And,
okay.
I think, just being a professional player, I think, you kind of get pushed. There's a competition in the locker room about, who can dress the best. And
they even do that now, like Instagram, like they have like shots of all the players coming in or like, okay, this is good style.
Exactly. I'm envious now of all the notoriety players are getting on social, because that wasn't around when I was coming through. So we just used to do it for banters and, for giggles in the locker room. And, if you didn't come in with the correct fit, your teammates would let you in. So it pushed you to dress to the nines. So I guess that kind of pushed me a little bit, but I think it's always been in me. I've always had a passion for clothes and shoes and, just trying to dress the part. So
well, you always look the part, man. So that's good, right?
I appreciate it. I appreciate it.
Nice. So on our podcast, we like to bring on different people in the community, different players to kind of tell us about like their soccer story, man. Tell us a little bit about yourself, how you grew up.
Yeah, man, that's a loaded question. For me, as you mentioned, grew up in the Raleigh area. And honestly, I kind of fell into the sport by mistake.
Okay.
When I was in kindergarten and, I was sitting Indian style, waiting for recess, and the kid beside me just ended up, being my best friend. It's just luck of the chance, just ended up being my best friend. We go out to recess and, play on the monkey bars and things together. And then we ended up being in some of the same classes as we progressed through elementary school. And his dad, had a travel team that he was putting together. Start off with a rec team.
Okay.
And then the travel team that he was putting together, and just asked me to come play for it. And luckily I knew nothing about soccer, but I took the chance, and really the rest is history. That's kind of where everything took off for me. As soon as I had a ball at my feet and, touched the grass and running around enjoying myself, there was no looking back. I just enjoyed playing the game and enjoyed the freedom that the game gave you. And so my parents stuck with it. My dad played basketball and football, and knew absolutely nothing, about soccer at all.
So that was pretty interesting. Like, you want to play soccer?
Yeah, exactly. But I think, I give all the credit in the world to my parents, because they didn't push me in a direction that they went. They saw that I enjoyed playing soccer, and, if it's not broke, don't fix it. I think we all live by that mentality. So, my parents stuck with me, and as long as I was enjoying it and having a good time, they continued to finance it for me and continue to put me in the sport. And I did play basketball and dabbled in a couple of other sports as well, but soccer was my true passion.
Okay.
That was my first love, and, gave me joy going out there and playing, and, developed some great friendships. And, I think that's the thing with any sport, is as long as you enjoy it, you're having fun, and it brings a smile to your face, continue to stick with it. And, it kept me out of trouble, just gave me some discipline.
Good, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Hold up. It kept you out of trouble, man, but one of the coolest clubs you played for, the Nightdale Bad Boys, man. Yeah. What was that about, bro? I love the name. I'm like, oh, snap. Like, if I was like a 10, 13, 15-year kid, I want to play for these guys.
Yeah. That's kind of like the coach that introduced me to the sport is the one who was the coach of the Nightdale Bad Boys.
Okay.
So, we started off as, obviously a rec team, and then a challenge team, and became, a classic team, a travel team.
Okay.
And we were like one of the baddest teams in the Raleigh area, in the Nightdale area. So,
have you ever watched Kicking and Screaming?
Yeah.
Like it was one game where like they grabbed the Italian kids and like they roll up to the game, and like they were at a butcher shop, and then like they came at the end, and like they come out and they have blood all all on them and they're coming out. Like, that's what I think of the bad boys, man. Like, oh snap, like these guys are ready to kill us.
It's crazy because we were the Nightdale Bad Boys, and I think our first year challenge ball, I think we were playing U10, but we were all like 8 years old. So we were playing up 2 years.
Oh,
so
wow,
like,
okay.
We're the Nightdale Bad Boys, but it's like these little scrawny kids coming to the game. I think the first year we went completely winless, and then we started to. By the time we got to U10 being 10-year-old players, we were running the league. So like playing up those 2 years, definitely we took our lumps. We got beat up quite a bit, but I think looking back on it, that prepared us. And going through some of those changes, you look back on it, it's like life lessons. You have to go through some of that adversity and get beat up a bit to really see the brighter side. So it's fantastic just being able to be a part of that group, because I still have friends that I grew up playing with on that team. And anytime we bring up Nightdale Bad Boys, there's always a story to tell. And, our coach had us dripped out, absolutely dripped out. Like, we might have been terrible at first, but we had the dopest Kelmy gear of all time.
Okay.
We had about 4 different kits. We had a red, checkerboard kit, a blue checkerboard kit, black and white checkerboard kit. We had training kits before training kits were a thing. It was official.
Okay.
It was official.
Man, you might have had to introduce that designer to Charlotte FC for our kids, man.
I'll talk to my contacts over at Adidas to see what we can do.
Nice, man. Awesome. Tell us how Duke happened then.
Yeah, it's a crazy story, and I can't believe I'm about to say this on air, but and this is one thing you always get smarter. That's the theme of this. You always get smarter as you grow up. You learn from your mistakes and experiences.
I love that. You always get smarter.
I grew up a UNC fan.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. Like I said, I got smarter. I saw the light and I got smarter. I grew up a UNC fan. Just growing up, I used to have, I was a big UNC basketball fan.
Okay.
Huge Vince Carter, Antoine Jameson,
nice.
Dante Calabria, you name it. I had posters on my wall, calendar. But when I played for Triangle Football Club, my coach at the time was a guy by the name of Al Pastore. And at the time, he was a volunteer assistant for the Duke men's team, and he used to have conversations with me as I continued to progress and develop in the game, that John Rennie, who was my head coach at Duke, liked me, what I could bring to the team. And, just invited me to a couple matches, Duke matches, took a couple unofficial visits. And, really, that was like my freshman year of high school. And I ended up verbally committing to Duke pretty early because I just loved the vibe and the culture there. From day one, the members of the team, just became good friends. When I would leave campus, they'd still text me. They'd invite me to games themselves. Just kind of took me under their wing, even before I committed to Duke. And I just loved the family feel that we had there. So, I committed verbally early, ended up signing as a sophomore. And then fast forward a couple years, freshman year, just had a good time. And you can't beat, being a part of a good soccer program, but 100%. Also the academics that Duke provides as well. Just that level and that standard is something that I couldn't pass up. And also, my mom was like, "You got a full scholarship at Duke. You're going to Duke." So that
makes sense too.
Exactly. That pushed me over the edge quite a bit. But no, I enjoyed my time. At Duke, I think it's really where I kind of took off as a player.
Okay. What kind of differences did you notice from high school club ball, rec league ball, to actually playing in college? What were some of the differences that you noticed there?
Yeah, I think growing up, I was always the best one on my team, or one of the best ones on my team. And I think the game came very easy to me at a younger age. I was very athletic, and I think I got by at an early age, which is a gift and a curse on my athleticism. And I think at Duke, just the speed of the game, the recruiting class that I came in with was one of the top recruiting classes in the nation. So, I came in with some really good players. The year before, Duke had gone to the Final Four with a recruiting class of 11 that was the top in their recruiting class as well. So I was playing with a whole bunch of good players, and I was no longer, the best player on my team. And I think that was a humbling moment for me, and a good moment for me to realize that there's more to the game than obviously I knew how to play, but there's more to the game than that the athletic part. And just understanding tactics and working on my technique, and playing the ball to a player's right foot versus a left foot when they're under pressure or in trouble, and learn how to break lines with passes. I think I learned a lot more there just by playing with better players. Having to go against Mike Grella. Mike Grella
Yeah.
was in my recruiting class.
Oof, okay.
And, he's one of the best players I've ever played with, hands down. He went on to have a good career over in Europe and then came back, had a solid career here with New York Red Bulls. So having to go against him every day in training, you can't help but get better as a center back and as a right back, going against some of the best of the best. So I think just that humbling experience, knowing that you really have to, put more into your craft.
I like that, man. What would be your advice then to players? Because I mean, like people experience that all the time. You're either coming from a small city or coming from somewhere where like you're the best. Everyone's looking at you like, yo, this is the guy. To maybe going into an experience like that where you get quickly humbled. What would be your advice to those guys? Because you could take it either way, man. You could say, man, like this sucks. I'm not really that good. Or, you can use it as a motivation factor. Like, no, I need to get better because I know my quality.
Yeah, I think it's just understanding that there's always room for improvement. You've never reached the top. I don't care what you do. I know it's cliche. People say sky's the limit, but the sky's infinite. So like you never really reach the top.
That's
so
good.
Understanding that you can always get better, and there's always pieces of your game to improve, whether it's physically, mentally, spiritually, whatever it is. There's always ways that you can improve your game. And so just having that mentality and being able to know that, you can have an off day, but maybe you focus on the mental part of the game that day. And that's something that, I feel like I developed, as I continue to progress. I don't think I started developing that part of my game, I guess, consciously until, I got to New England and got to the professional ranks. But yeah, I think that's just it. Just continue to devote yourself to the game and understand that you've never reached the top. And if you keep that mentality, you'll continue to push and challenge yourself, to really get better. And that's when, you really start to see results.
I love that, man. That's so good.
Yeah, man. It's just, you just learn so much playing a game. And I think that's the thing about sports. There's
so many success principles in it
exactly.
as well.
There's so many microcosms of life within
Right.
sports too. You just, just your dedication, just really being devoted to your craft, the discipline, sacrifices you have to make. At Duke, people ask me how Duke was as a school, and I loved every second of it. And they'll be like, what do you miss most? And I was like, or what do you regret most? And I don't really have any regrets, but it's like, as an athlete, you never get the chance to be like a college student. People talk about, being able to go to games and parties and whatever it is. But like as an athlete at a school, you don't really get to do too much of that. And I graduated early from Duke so that I could, pursue my professional career. So not a lot of people, even if you are a college athlete, you have that, one semester, your senior year, where you can be a true college student. And so I skipped over that a bit. So there's sacrifices you have to make to reach
really
your goals.
Good.
Yeah, you just gotta, some things you gotta put on the back burner and realize what's most important. So I just think there's so many life lessons and microcosms of life that you can learn from sport.
Touch a little bit more on that in terms of, because being an athlete in college, in my perspective, it's like having a job, while you're in college. Like you mentioned, like some of the sacrifices that you had to make. Can you kind of give us a breakdown of what those days would look like in terms of a college athlete?
Yeah, you like you said, it is a full-time job, and you have to. To be honest, I was intimidated going to Duke because, growing up, people really put Duke on this pedestal, and it's a top-notch school. But the advice that was given to me from some of my teammates before I came in was just, do the work. Just make sure you do the work and prioritize your time. And just learning how to prioritize was huge for me because, like you said, you have school and you have, training and soccer to focus on. And so kind of putting those into two different buckets and learning how, all right, this is where I'm going to dedicate this time and find the priorities from a schoolwork standpoint. This is how I'm going to prioritize my time from a soccer and dedicating time to my craft because this is what got me to this point.
Okay.
And so I think just, really prioritizing, where to spend your time. When you have your classes, when your training sessions are, so you start to fill in those gaps and just look at what matters most. You got to school and soccer are the reasons I was at Duke. Yeah. Females, parties, social life, all that stuff had to be kind of plugged in.
And it's easier said than done, right?
Exactly. It really is. So, I think you really have to be disciplined and know how to balance yourself. and learn when to say no. There's a lot of times you have to say no. If you have, a game coming up on a Friday night, there's whatever, a social gathering, or, friends want to do something on a Thursday, you got to be like, no, I'm dedicating myself to my craft. I'm, make sure I'm put myself in the best position, because, nothing's gonna come of putting yourself in a position where that you could fail. And there's a reason that you failed. If you go out there and fail, and you've done everything you can to put yourself in the best position, you can live with that. You get
100%, man.
Dust yourself off. But if you haven't done everything you can to put yourself in a position to succeed, and you fail, then that's when there's a problem.
That's really good. I love that, man. I mean, also, like, I love the fact that you understood the professionalism, because you also had an end goal. Like, you wanted to be a professional, right? I think understanding that perspective, always keeping like your ultimate goal in mind as well, right? Because if you just wanted to play college, you were doing it.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't need to create this super standard for yourself either, correct?
Yeah, I think that's exactly it. You like I said, continue to reach new heights. You want to continue to challenge yourself to get better. And so I think for me, it was freshman year when I realized that I had the opportunity to go pro. I had a fantastic freshman year. We won ACC championship. I started most of the games my freshman year. And after the season, a coach came to me and said, there's interest in you at the professional level. But for me, I always wanted to graduate. I always wanted to, complete my Duke degree. Like, if I'm going to go to Duke, I'm going to make sure I'm going to finish and at least get that degree. So when my coach had that conversation with me at the end of the season meeting, I was like, I was kind of starstruck, really. I was just like, wow, like, coaches are actually asking about me and are intrigued about me as being a professional prospect. So, like, that was some of the motivation that I needed to, all right, summer, I'm work my tail off to make sure I'm fit and, ready to go and improving my game going into sophomore year. Took that mentality. Junior year, made sure that I was taking my summer school classes to prep myself to be able to graduate early, so I could, when the time came and I hopefully be drafted or had my chance in MLS, that I could take it. And so everything from that moment was just, targeted towards and put myself in position for that moment.
Awesome. So you feel like that work ethic you developed there kind of at that brink? Because, I mean, a lot of what you're saying, like, takes a lot of discipline, and it takes a lot of work. I mean, you graduated early. You're playing at one of the best schools. I mean, that's phenomenal work ethic for the age that you were at,
Yeah, and I think I learned that just through sport in general, growing up. It teaches you to get what you want to achieve. You have to grind. You go through hardships, but you just continue to dig deeper. So a lot of we had a coach, a fitness coach at Duke, Coach Hauser, who used to put us through some of the most grueling fitness sessions in the world when we were taking summer classes. And going through those sessions, and some of the timings that he would put on you seemed impossible, but just going through some of those experiences just shows you like what it can be, the heights that you can achieve and the heights that you can reach. So just knowing you have to put that work in, day out, really pushes you to your max goal.
I love that, man. Awesome. Tell us a little bit now about the MLS Super Draft. And first, I want you to, for the people that don't kind of understand what the MLS Super Draft is, can you explain it to us a little bit, and how you ended up at New England?
Yeah. I mean, MLS Super Draft is essentially like just like your NBA draft, NFL draft, NHL draft. It's, at the time it was selecting, the best of the best from the college game. And some of those that were, pursuing a professional career.
I mean,
after
some of
high school.
The biggest ballers have come out of there. I mean, Clint Dempsey, Michael Bradley. Clint played at he got drafted by New England as well, man.
Yeah. So, the MLS Super Draft was a huge deal for me when I got invited to the combine. After my senior year, I knew this was my shot to show myself and present myself to some of the coaches and scouts who maybe hadn't seen me play. Maybe there were some West Coast teams that hadn't seen me play, being that I was, grew up on the East Coast. So I was excited, and I looked at everything as an opportunity. And, growing up and playing, like, I never got nervous, before a match. It was always something that came natural to me. when we get to the pro part, I'll speak to that a little bit later.
I was like, man, you just always been cool then.
But when we get to the pro part, I'll speak to that a little bit later. But yeah, it's just, the combine was opportunity. And every time I saw an opportunity, I just wanted to grab it. And so went to the combine and showed well, signed with an agent. And, lucky for me, I was able to be selected in the third round of the MLS Super Draft by New England. I can't remember. I was either picked 40 or 41 overall. Okay. But, yeah, I was selected by New England. And, that was a blessing for me, because in this game, it takes, obviously work ethic, it takes skill, dedication, all that stuff. But you also need some luck.
Yeah.
A lot of opportunities when you got to be in position to take advantage of them.
Yeah.
But
I also think, though, like the harder you work, the luckier you can get,
Yeah. That's a great point as well. Like I said, you create your own luck,
100%.
if you will. And when you're in that position, you got to be in a position to take advantage of it. And so getting drafted to New England was it was a great moment for me, just honestly just being able to check off a childhood goal to make it to a professional level.
And your dedication, your work ethic, and all those times that you grinded paid off as well. I mean, that's something that people have to understand as well. Like, I mean, like if you do the work, like opportunities will come.
Yeah, and I think that's exactly it. When my name's called, I'm like, wow, like I've made it here. But then very quickly, you revert back because in an MLS Super Draft, you're not guaranteed a roster spot. So NBA, first, second round picks pretty much are guaranteed roster spots. NFL, the first couple rounds of picks are going to be on the squad. For me, as a third round pick in an MLS Super Draft, I'm not guaranteed a spot. So like, I was happy I was drafted, but I knew there was work that still needed to be done.
100%.
2 weeks later, I'm in, got to fly to Boston, start preseason. And so right there, it's just, you're proving yourself all over again.
Yeah.
You've been drafted. Okay, that's step one. Next step, you're in a grueling, month-long, 6-week-long preseason where you have to earn a roster spot, trying to earn a contract. So, I quickly transitioned to grind mode all over again to make sure that, the coaches saw, what they saw in me, and that I could prove them right. And, luckily I was able to do so. And like I said, luckily I, went to a team that had a need for my position as well. A lot of times some people get drafted where they're not in the best positions from a club standpoint.
That's a good point too.
So being able to go to a club that, needed my position as a central defender, and
Steve Nicol was your coach, right? Liverpool legend.
Exactly. Steve Nicol was my coach. Paul Mariner, RIP, passed away a couple months ago. But it was a fantastic coaching staff. They were the ultimate players coaches, and really, showed a vested interest in me. So I'm so blessed and thankful that, I was able to play for those guys and be drafted by those guys because, I really owe them my professional career. They got me on the right foot.
Yeah. So you went from college level, which is another degree of difficulty, to the professional level. Is there anything extra that you noticed there?
I think for me, it was just the professionalism you have to show. You got to respect the game because you can be showed up in an instant at the professional level, just with how fast the game is, how technical, players are, how smart players are. I think that was the biggest adjustment for me. It was just learning how smart players are.
Expand on that a little bit. What do you mean by how smart players are?
I think it's just their ability to read the game. For me as a defender, like I said, a lot of times I got by with my physicality, as a central defender, and I looked at myself as a smart player, but, strikers at the professional level are extremely intelligent. And this came later in my professional career, but one of the smartest players I ever played against was Robbie Keane. And, playing against him, he challenged me, and he dropped a couple goals with me throughout my career that, I look back on him and was like, there's levels to this.
Yeah.
And just, their movement off the ball, their ability to be able to bait defenders with simple, checks to and checks away from the ball, finding the open space in the box, timing of runs, all those things that strikers are thinking about, I wasn't as privy to coming out of college. So that just goes back to you continue to develop, and there's always things that you can continue to get better on and that you can build on as a player. And for me, I tried to go back and watch some of those games when I had a terrible game to see what I could have done better. And that helped me throughout my career.
I love that, man. That's really cool. Tell us about your professional debut then. Like, what was that feeling like? Were you nervous then?
See, that's when the nerves kicked in. That's when the nerves kicked in. Yeah, like I remember my first game. I was in March in 2009. We were playing San Jose back when they played at Santa Clara, and back then there was a long walk from the locker room to the pitch, and I just remember you got the kids that you walk out with, the player escorts, and walking out, you're hearing the crowd, and it's the first game of the MLS season in 2009, and the nerves didn't hit me then, but the nerves hit me when you stand out, you hear the processional, you line up, and you just start to smell the grass. You hear the fans, and then when the national anthem plays, that's when all sorts of butterflies, in my stomach, fireworks, all those things. And you just reflect. You just reflect on, what got you there, who helped you get there, sacrifices people made, and I don't know how long the national anthem is, a minute and a half or whatever, but, it's like your whole life kind of flashes before your eyes, like thinking about the sacrifices my parents made to get me where I was, coaches that took me under their wing, your whole college career. It's like a quick flashback of your entire soccer career, and it's kind of a surreal moment, to be honest. And I get butterflies right now just thinking about it, just being able standing up there, and I'm standing beside some legends, and Shari Joseph, Steve Ralston, Jeff Lorenowitz, like these guys that eventually became good friends of mine. But this is the first time that I'm actually going to battle with them on the pitch. So
what did your parents say to you after your debut?
Yeah, I mean, they were just extremely excited and proud of me.
That's gonna be a great moment for them too, man.
Yeah, it was. And just the opportunity after that to be able to send home my first professional jersey that I wore in a game, and it's just a fantastic moment. Just that they were able to see that and watch.
And you're repping North Carolina, man. I love that.
Yeah. They were able to watch my first game from home on TV. They had a lot of my aunts and uncles over and things like that. So that's a moment that I'll definitely cherish for a lifetime.
All right, awesome. Tell us also about your first goal, man. It came as a header, correct?
Yeah, so it wasn't too many of them. I have two. I scored 2 goals in the professional ranks, but first one was against New York Red Bulls. I think we were down 2-0, and my goal, header off a corner kick, just rose up, headed it, made it 2-2. So we ended up drawing that game.
Did you have a celebration in mind, or you just?
In your head, you always have a celebration in mind. I don't think the execution ever goes like you want it to. I feel like the celebration in my mind was kind of the Didier Drogba, just how he.
Okay.
But I think when I actually did it, the execution wasn't as good as how it looked. It looked in my head, but that just goes to show, defenders don't celebrate that. Just don't do it.
That's if they do a bad miss, near the goal, oh, it's a defender,
Exactly.
If it's a striker, it's a whole nother.
And I think it says so. My only 2 goals in MLS are headers. So
okay.
That's how us defenders usually like to put the ball in the back of the net.
Nice. I love that, man. Tell us then, you played 7 years at New England, right?
8.
8 years at New England. What's your biggest takeaway from that time?
Biggest takeaway is it's a journey, and it's a journey that goes by super quickly too. In New England, I think, and this is part of being an athlete, just the peaks and valleys that you go through. And when I first year in New England, played every minute of every game. I think at that time it was a rookie record.
Yeah.
And so I was extremely thrilled.
You and Parkhurst, I think, have that, right?
Yeah. And I think there's been a couple other players to do it since then, but played every minute of every game, and that's something that I really held my hat on, just being available for my team. And like I said earlier, just that the team had a need in me, and gave me that opportunity. And so mentality-wise, you think that that's how it's going to be year in and year out. Obviously I continue to put in work, but in the off season, work, train, got ready for the next year, 2010, and I think in training camp I just got a little muscular injury that set me out for a bit. And so second year, I still played a good amount of games, but I had injuries, so I didn't play obviously as much as I did the year before. Then, you go through years, our roster, I think my third year wasn't as good as it was my rookie year. Bring in new players, coaching staff have new tactics, and it just kind of goes up and down, peaks and valleys in terms of, playing time. I would say half of my career, I started majority of the game, other half of the career, I didn't. So it was, just being able to stick with it from a mental standpoint and understanding that, when your number's called on and that, your career is going to take on a life of its own, and, how you, foresee it or envision it may not be the way it goes, but you always have to be prepared and just be a professional about things. You may not always agree with, coaching staff decisions, or may not always have, get along with your teammates, but being a pro and understanding that it's your job, like you take, your media and podcasting very, very seriously.
100%.
The same, if something doesn't go well, you had to correct it and, be better the next
Make
one.
Adjustments.
Exactly. And as an athlete, you have to make adjustments on the fly, have self-critique, and understand, what you can bring to the table and how you continue to get better. But this is your job and it's your craft and it's your responsibility to make sure.
I guess that's why they're called professional players, right?
Yeah, but not all players are professional too. You're called professional players, but not all players are professional.
That's a good point too.
Players that may have the professional ability skill wise, but between the ears, they're not professional. And
how important do you think that is?
That's key. If you don't have the right mentality, going into a game, going into a training session, going into a season, it's going to reflect and it's going to rub off on your teammates as well. You're only as good as, the weakest member of your team. So if everyone's not pulling their weight and being, bringing the best of themselves, eventually there's going to be, some holes that are exposed. So I think just really trying to do what you can to be at the top of your game. And I think that starts, between the ears and making sure, everyone's mentally tuned in and mentally available.
I love that, man. That's solid stuff. What do you remember about the 2014, that final team? I mean, I know you guys lost to Galaxy, but was there something special you felt about that team that was different than every other? Or?
Yeah, that's a sore subject, man. Wow.
You should have told me. I wouldn't have brought it up, man.
that one takes me back. That team was special. And I say it was special because I think there was a point in that season where we had gone on like a 9 or 10 game winless streak, which a lot of people may not remember, don't realize. But, there's a point we were out of the playoffs. We were below the red line. And I think we just had a moment where we all came together, and we had a couple of transactions as well. We brought in Jermaine Jones at that time, and I think him coming from the World Cup and coming to the squad gave us a boost. We had started to turn it around a little bit then, but I think his presence in the locker room, just brought a different energy. Sometimes you need a jolt, you need a different energy brought into the locker room. He definitely brought that. He pushed us. He brought a different level, raised the standard in training, and everybody's standard rose at the same time. So that was a special season, just kind of, like I said, the peaks and valleys of an athlete, of a season. That was all kind of put together and meshed together in one. And we really went on a remarkable run at the end of the season. Beat Columbus, beating Red Bulls in the Eastern Conference Finals. And then, we get to MLS Cup. And literally we were inches away from winning MLS Cup till Bunbury hit the crossbar in extra time of the second half. And then we end up going to overtime, and Robbie Keane does what he does.
I was just about to say, I let you say it.
Robbie Keane strikes again, man. Yeah, it's, that was heartbreaking. But, one of the pinnacles of my career, just being in an MLS Cup and experiencing kind of the peak.
Yeah, of course.
Exactly. And, I think, we had obviously high hopes of getting back there, never got back there. But, I'm super happy for New England and what they've been able to do this year. Just, win a Supporters Shield. I think that club deserves it.
With Bruce Arena.
Yeah, exactly. Kind of ironic.
Yeah.
Kind of ironic, right? And then just, having the most points ever in an MLS season. So, really big ups to New England for what they're doing with that franchise.
100%, man. Hopefully we can emulate some of that success here in Charlotte,
Oh yeah,
man.
oh yeah, yeah.
So tell us about that, man. What were the biggest changes when you actually retired and went into like you worked in New York a little bit? Now you're here at Charlotte. What are you noticing now, life as not a professional player?
Yeah, I think it's I'm not a professional player anymore, but I'm professional on on the corporate side of the business, and I think as a individual, you just got to keep reinventing yourself, and like I said, putting your all into whatever you do as your professional craft. And when I retired in 2017, I knew I wanted to stay involved with the game. Like, this game has been a part of me for such a long period of time, and I spoke to at the beginning, like, this game brought me joy and passion and put a smile on my face at an early age, and I continue to have that passion, although not playing anymore, but still want to contribute to the game. And just seeing all the growth and the potential that MLS has, I wanted to be a part of that. I couldn't let that just die just because I wasn't playing anymore.
You've got so much value to add to it as well.
Yeah, and like I said, I still think I have a lot left to give to the game. But for me, when I retired, I wanted to use my degree and see what it was like on the business side of the league, and learn that aspect. I had already been a part of the competition and technical side, being a player. So I wanted to do something a little bit different, and I know a lot of players go down the more competitive and technical route, whether it is going into coaching or being an agent, or going the GM route, which I love. We need more former players to stay involved with the game, because I think that only elevates us and makes us more authentic and reputable.
Yeah, you're right.
As well,
authenticity.
exactly.
I love that.
So having people that played the game, I think, stand within the game, only helps validate this league. But for me, I wanted to, like I said, shift to the commercial side and challenge myself. Learn a new skill set. Just add something else to the toolbox. So when I retired in 2017, I was in New York, because my last year I played with the New York Cosmos, and I kind of knew that year was going to be my last year playing, and so just started to prep myself. Had conversations with a couple different individuals in the league office, and it was really from there where opportunity came for me to work in the partnership marketing department at the league office. So first gig, just managing a number of the league's corporate sponsors, from the likes of Adidas and Audi, MGM, SeatGeek, Johnson & Johnson, a number of others. And I just learned the business of the league. I learned, what sponsors look for and how they look to engage, their brand with the sport, how they want to leverage different assets to catapult their brand within the space to the soccer market and soccer demographic. And just behind the scenes, just learn more about media, learn about PR, and just how to amplify messages.
Okay.
And so I've continued to learn and gather those skills. And
I love that you never lose that, like, especially what you said earlier, like, you're never going to reach the top, like, continue to go, like, you actually live it, which is great.
You have to continue to learn, and you got to continue to evolve, because the moment you get complacent, someone else is going to be there and looking to do the work that you're not willing to do. So you got to continue to stay sharp. You got to stay sharp. But I had a fantastic, post-playing career at the league office. So fortunate they gave me opportunity to step in right away once I retired and learn. I think I learned so much at the league office, and even just this past year in 2020 with everything that's happened throughout the pandemic. That was an experience that's, not many people can replicate or have really been through. So how to manage partners and continue to generate revenue for a league that's in a pandemic where there's no fans.
Creativity side really shows during seasons like this, right?
Exactly. So it's nice to get back to a sense of normalcy.
Yeah.
But I think it just, been in the pandemic as well, just realized that it really wasn't a need for me to be in New York anymore. And, like I said, I'm from Raleigh. I was getting older, got married, family's here. Just wanted to be closer to family. And I always said, if a team in North Carolina got a team, it'd be my dream job to work for them, just to help build something. Because as for me growing up, I didn't have a professional team, MLS team to really cheer for in my backyard. And the fact that, there's one in North Carolina, in Charlotte, grew up 2.5 hours away in Raleigh, it was an opportunity I couldn't pass up. So, when I had the opportunity to come to Charlotte FC and work, it was a no-brainer for me. And just understanding, the value that I can add and what I can continue to learn here. Just building a club from the bottom up.
Nice.
Is a
Explain your
worthwhile
role a little
experience.
bit here at Charlotte. What will you be doing? What are you doing?
Yeah. And that's a good question. So first, I'm director of business operations. So I work with Nick Kelly, pretty closely across, the business administration side of the house. But essentially, everyone at the club right now is rolling up sleeves. Everyone's doing some of everything.
Yeah.
We know when you're building a club, you're going to have to wear a number of different hats. So, right now, focusing on our media and broadcast strategy, looking at helping out with our, business development and corporate partnerships, some of our film marketing, working with our chief fan officer to help build our relationship with the fans and match day experiences, MLS strategy. There's so much that goes into building a club, and just, we're all rolling up sleeve and dipping our hands in to make sure this club is as successful as we can.
Yeah, I love what you said, that a lot of you guys wear a lot of different hats at Charlotte FC. One of the things that just from an outsider looking in is just the aspect of what Nick Kelly said, I don't know, maybe 2 or 3 months ago, about how the club just doesn't want to be an MLS club. Like, they actually want to be a forward-thinking club. And, like, we're seeing that. We're the first to have a chief fan officer. We've got student ambassador programs. Mm-hmm. We've got the 22-pitch initiative. Like, you guys are breaking barriers, and I really like that, promoting diversity through small businesses. You guys held the Latino block party. So a lot of this stuff are things that I think from an outsider looking in, like, okay, like, this isn't just a club. Like, of course, at the end of the day, we want to be successful on the pitch, but there is so much other aspects that Charlotte FC is working on as well, correct?
Yeah, I think that's exactly it. And I think, as a club, we want to be on the front foot. We want to be forward thinking. We don't want to rinse and repeat and do things just like every other club has done. Obviously there's some staples that stay within the sport. Soccer is such a unique sport and unique culture, unique fan bases, unique supporters. It's unlike any other, sport in the world, just the culture and energy that you get at a soccer game. It's second to none. And I get goosebumps thinking about it. But, as a club, we're trying to be as, diverse and inclusive as possible. And that's something that we don't just preach, but, we want to show that at the same time. We want our fan base to be representative of who we are as a club, be representative of what the product that we put on the pitch, be representative of our front office staff as well. We want to be ambitious and progressive and, collective. We want to be one club, for the Carolinas. This isn't just, although we are Charlotte FC, this is a club for the entire Carolina region. And we want to unify those voices. We want to continue to bring people from all parts of the Carolinas together, to enjoy and have a good time, at Charlotte FC matches and cheer for the team together and continue that, have that ambitious mindset. And Charlotte FC, we want to be here for the community. Without the community, without the fans, without the support of the community, Charlotte FC isn't anything. And so just being able to, throw events like the block party and, build the mini pitches for progress. I think those things are some of the most important things that we're going to do as a club. On Wednesdays and Saturdays and Sundays when we're playing the games, that's what people are buying the tickets for and looking to, come out and have a good time. But the impact that we can have on this community is, for me, that's the most important, because now we're setting up, generations to come for success and, having a safe space for, the next generation of kids and next generation of soccer talent to be able to look forward to. And so the impact that we can have on the community, I really think that'll be the legacy mark for the club.
Yeah, 100%. You took the words right out of my mouth right there at the end, man, that the legacy mark. And it's cool that you'll always be 10, 20, 30, 40 years from now. You'll always look back and be like, man, I was there at the foundational aspect of the club,
Yeah, and I think that's it. And it's great to be at the foundational aspect of the club. And, there's a lot of people who are, on my team and on our team that are doing this with me. But, there's become a point in time where we're going to leave, but this club is going to be here forever.
100%.
Charlotte FC is the thematic, it's the central and the focal point, and that's that's what fans as well. Fans are gonna, you're part of supporters groups. The supporters groups are gonna continue to get older, but we got to prep the next generation of supporters groups to come along, because Charlotte FC is not going anywhere. Charlotte FC is going to be here to stay. We may be dead and gone at some point, but Charlotte FC is going to be here. So just how do we continue to collectively come together as one, for the good of the Carolinas and the
Love that,
club
man.
and community.
My last question then to you would be, what would be your advice for a young person or a young kid, 10, 13, 14, that wants to make it to the pro level in soccer?
Yeah, I think my number one advice would be to stay humble. First of all, you're going to have success, and you could be the best at what you do, but don't brag or boast. You play with, as a soccer player, you play with confidence, and that kind of brings your personality out of it. But stay humble. Just really stay humble, and to my point earlier, just you've never reached the top level. You've never reached your pinnacle. If you stay with that mindset and continue to push yourself and challenge yourself to reach the top, which you'll never really reach it. You're always going to continue to sharpen yourself and get better. That's my mentality of how I think of things, and go through every day as if you have something to prove.
Stay humble and stay hungry, right?
Exactly. That's exactly it.
Nice. I love that, man. It's interesting that everybody that's like a peak performer always talks about that, because for outsiders looking in, like, dude, why are you working so hard? They're like, you just don't understand. Like, there's always another level you can go to,
there's
right?
There's always, and everybody's like, once you get to fifth gear, but no, reinvent something, be innovative, and make a sixth to seventh gear, whatever it is. And, I think if you have that mentality, you're destined to succeed.
Love that. Darrius, my man, thank you so much for taking some time and coming over here, man.
Jorge, I appreciate it, man. Thank you so much.